Hey guys, it's Matt. This episode of Midnight Reality goes into a place where we rarely go and most channels rarely go. Now, we all throw the concept around a lot, but have we ever really asked ourselves the only question that matters? And for the rest of this video, we'll discuss all the different possibilities related to how much are we responsible for reality itself? How much are we responsible for what you would call the outside world? Now, it's not a new concept, of course. And the double slit experiment, some people think, that proves right there that we collapse the wave function. Our consciousness is responsible for creating matter. We throw all that around, and the double slit experiment still triggers some people. It's got to be fake or something. But either way, it doesn't matter. We've all thrown this concept around a million times, but here's the point and the place to start. It's like if there was one question on a piece of paper right in front of you and you're holding a pen or a pencil and you had to answer it. How much are you responsible for the outside world and reality itself? Now, I might as well pause for a few seconds. Why not come up with the answer right now on your own? See, we throw the concept around a lot, but how many of us have really ever thought about it? And if we had to produce an answer, put down in a sentence what we truly believe in this regard. Almost nobody's done that. It's time to finally do it. And right now, Frank is like, that's similar to the letter that I just sent Matt. He's stealing my ideas. It's like Escobedo in Clear and Present Danger. The President of the United States is stealing my money. I made it, and he's stealing it. No, Frank, I'm going to read certain sections of your letter, but don't freak out. No personal information, no last names, no locations. I'll read certain parts. Frank, I'm not stealing your stuff. You're inspiring this video. About 2 weeks ago or so, I mentioned Frank's name at that time and just very generally and very quickly put out some of his concepts about how each of us carry our own reality and you carry yours and however many real spiritual beings there are here. And somehow when we come together, somehow we don't understand those realities mesh or line up in some way. But maybe when we go off, we carry our own, which is very, very different and distinct from the next person over. And we don't know how many real people are here. That doesn't mean there's almost 7 billion or whatever they say carrying around their own realities. So for some reason, I threw that out in a video about 2 weeks ago, but now it's really time to get down to brass tacks on this issue and to finally document for yourself, what do you believe? So this part of the letter should inspire the rest of the discussion. Frank says, I solidly believe that we each create all things physical and all other beings. Our difference lies in how we view others. In my view, I make it all. In your view, Matt, there are others. Some of your others are against you, opponents. I'll continue. Minions, not milk, etc. Creeps, things like George Soros. I see my others, says Frank, as created by me for the purpose to have a game. And Frank's messing with us in that first sentence with the clever, I solidly believe so that we each create all things. If we create all things, there is nothing solid. Frank, that's good. Okay. Frank knows that I'm gonna joke with him. He can take it. Frank in his letter does not mention the word solipsism, but we've thrown that out many times over the years. Let's just go over that. It's related to what Frank's saying here, just 1 minute or less. The very loosest of definitions, or vaguest regarding solipsism, is just a general notion that none of us can prove that any of us are here. You can only really be sure about yourself. There is no way to prove that even I'm sitting next to you or the person on the bus is sitting next to you, etc. Okay, now we all have been through those thought exercises. But, have you remembered that it is associated with the word solipsism? We'll come back to it. At its strictest definition, taken all the way to the end of the sliding scale, somebody that says, I'm a believer in solipsism, actually believes they're the only thing in the entire universe that exists. Not just they're the only ones that it can't be proven others don't exist, that they believe nothing else exists. There are actually many of us in our community, or at least associated with this channel, that somewhat believe that. I can't tell you how many times someone in an email say to me, Matt, it seems like you're there, but there's no way I could ever be sure that you're a real being and you even exist in my reality with me. Many people in our community actually go really to that end of that scale for what's called solipsism. Now, Frank's is like a modified solipsism or a hybrid solipsism, saying we each carry our own reality. And somehow, Matt, if I were to sit next to you on the bus and we were to have a conversation, somehow, in ways we'll never understand, our realities are very, very different. We're creating them ourselves. Somehow, they come together. Now, for anybody about to check out of this video who's saying to me, Matt, we appreciate your big thinking from time to time, but this is horse shit. Oh, this is a peyote fest. You've been smoking a little too much of the wacky weed. We don't need this sort of thought. We're the only ones in the reality. This is ridiculous. You're embarrassing yourself. But for anybody, third grade truthers, they just want to go back to a mall event or school events, let me take a Billy Madison podium to try to keep you here with a very general argument. In general, everything you've dived into in terms of what this reality says is important, or how any aspect of not milk reality presents itself in this way, in that way. When you've dived into it, is it what it seems, or is almost everything you've ever looked at a false presentation? Well, obviously. Even the first grade truther will put the spitball down, say it's all a false presentation. Yeah, we know that. So why wouldn't reality itself be a false presentation? Well, Matt, that can't be. I'm banging my fist on the table right now. It's real. It's got to be real. But wait a second. You just admitted to me, fourth grade truther, that everything you've ever looked into here is generally a false presentation. Well, yeah, but not reality itself. Oh, I see. This is the only thing that's true and real. It doesn't follow the same rules and guidelines and everything. It doesn't line up with everything you've looked at. This is completely different. Why would it be different? All the other false presentations stem from that reality. If you go back to if the river's poison, I bet if you go back to the damn tributary where it comes in, or the original hell spring, that's poison too. Now, there's a lot more to read here from Frank, but let's go back to the most important sentence I've already read one more time. In my view, he says, I make it all. I make all of reality. In your view, Matt, you little small-thinking son of a beach, in your view, there are others. Some of your others are against you. And I'll continue as Frank would write if he continued along these lines. You're not milk. You're minions. You're creeps. There's an enemy to overcome. Okay, Matt, he would say, you've done a decent job going halfway, but your little idiot monkey brain isn't going far enough. I know you don't feel this way about me, Frank. It's just funny. You're not going far enough, Matt. You've said many times for many years that this minion class here, they're role players here. It's not a true hijack. They're here to benefit us. They don't truly realize what's going on. They're role players. Frank would say, you're going halfway, Matt. But your opinion has always been they're role players, but separate. Tony says a separate spiritual entity. It's a sequential incarnation. It's not your simultaneous incarnation. Frank goes, whether you think it's completely insane or not, he goes the whole way on the scale and says, no, it's okay, Matt, you might say they're role players created by a higher being to play the role so you learn something. Frank's saying it's whatever it is created by us for this game. Now, there are some issues Frank eventually needs to address, like, okay, how many real beings are here? And if I have a completely separate reality from Frank, how is it possible we can sit together on the bus and have a conversation where we would say, oh, yeah, are you going to watch the Eagles go play in the Brazil for the first game? They're playing, NFL's going to Brazil, I hear. It's flashed up several times during the Olympics that I watched. Well, and I bet in Frank's reality, he might have seen that commercial too where the Eagles are going to play in Brazil. Well, that's how all these shared elements coming together. If Frank creates it, and there'd be no point in having this conversation if I believe Frank it's true solipsism. If I don't think Frank would say, Matt, you don't exist. I think he says, I exist and Matt exists, and somehow our realities come together. If I'm just a creation of Frank, then there's no point in this whole video. I should just shut it down now and go get a glazed donut or something. Continuing with Frank's letter, and I'll add a few words from time to time just so you better understand what he's saying. I have the benefit of reading through all this and corresponding with him before, so I might add a few things. Matt, of course it's a conspiracy generation machine. ship of fools, dimwits, evil people, all of this stuff. Of course, it's a conspiracy generation machine, unnatural, because you're trying to apply natural laws to it like it came from the earth in a big bang. It's all from you. It's all from me, Frank. It's all from the few spiritual beings that are here. Of course, it's a conspiracy generation machine. You're generating it. And we're getting the sense, of course, that I think I can speak for the old guard, that's true. Saying without the game and physical universe, he says this is where he really has to explain a little more. You enter the abyss. What? Frank, we're trying to get out of here to a higher spiritual plane. Without the game and physical universe, you enter the abyss, the nothing, the total void. Anything is better than no thing. Anything can be absolutely horrible, and torture, starvation, anything that this reality can throw, fear, terror. But that is still, to a being like us, Frank is saying in a way, that is better than the void, than nothing. Now, I'm going to try to just pause for a second to try to see where he's going here. He'll explain it in the future. Matt, what seemed to be very uplifting in the beginning is now turning very dark. I'm going to go mow the lawn. I don't want to listen to this horse shit. Per the rest of this letter here, if I can't exactly determine where he's going with this, he will explain it to me in the future, and we'll do another video. Matt, who's this Frank guy? Is he your new Tony that now you're bowing down to someone else? No, as I've said, about 1,000 really smart people have shared a lot of different things with me over 15 years. As I said, there's no original thoughts ever that come from me. Frank says, I think that everything comes from each of us. Everything. Or maybe just me. I know that I am aware. I assume others could be. In my dream, it's all from me. So Frank's just basically, like we've talked about the ratio or the step down from the dream character to this, to what might exist after death. We know the dream character in that scenario is all from me. And Frank doesn't find it hard to bridge the gap like many of us would find it hard. Well, the dream character in that environment, when I'm in it, we admit, anybody on the street, even the dumbest of the dumb, would admit, well, that's all from me, generated by me. Of course. Now get out my face if you're trying to talk to someone in the street. So Frank's like saying, well, why is it so hard to say that this level's all from me? It's not a big deal to Frank, where we're like, well, I don't know. Well, see, when we're in the dream, if you talk to the dream character and say, hey, dream character, dream Matt, you're having a dream. Come over here, you son of a bitch. Come over. This is all, you're creating all this. The dream character would be like, what's your problem? Get out my face. The dream character wouldn't believe it. So Frank's like, well, we're just one level up from the dream. We create all this too. The real, if Frank ever wants to get Nobel Prize like Obama, he needs to tell me how everything comes together. How does my personal reality bubble, generated by Matt, mesh with Frank's personal reality bubble if we're, say, having a conversation? Although he could say it's pure solipsism and Matt doesn't exist at all. At least I'd understand that. But if Matt is a real being on par with Frank, then how do the realities come together if we're sitting on the bus? That's what Frank needs to bridge if he wants Nobel Prize and he wants brown liquor. Matt, here's an exercise called assigning cause that Frank calls a physical universe rabbit hole. Assigning cause. So an example, we'll go through it quickly. If I put on pink lens glasses, why don't we make it magenta, Frank? If I put on pink lens glasses, everything then looks pinkish around me, right? So are the glasses themselves creating the pink? No. Well, maybe it's the compounds in the glass that create the pink. Well, maybe it's the manufacturer, the manufacturing process, the guy running the equipment at the manufacturing plant, the person that grinds the sand, or you just keep taking the cause back farther and farther. But the guy that was supposed to make the glasses that day, he has a different example here. I'm changing it a bit. He didn't come in, and another guy made those glasses. So is that guy responsible for what you now see as the pink Ocean City boardwalk as you look around? However, without that, then you would have never gotten those glasses, and it would have been something else, like an ice cream cone that you would have bought. I've changed this example. Matt, there is no, Matt, that's a physical universe rabbit hole called assigning cause. Simple is true. You put on the glasses. The being, the real being, is always the cause of everything. It's just how far can you accept responsibility? People don't like this. The being is the cause. Frank has pointed this out to me many times in the past. People don't like this, Matt. You go here, boy, you're going to lose a lot of subscribers. People don't want to be responsible. They want to blame Biden, Trump, of course. They want to point. He says even a good segment of your truth community, Matt, people that on a lie detector test say, answer honestly, are you a big thinker more than your family and friends? And they would believe it. They'd say, I am a big thinker, far superior to my family and friends. Is he lying? And the FBI person looking at the little squiggly would say, oh, he's not lying. They believe it. But Matt, he told me before, he said, Matt, you go here, you put responsibility, ultimate responsibility for reality creation on these people. Oh, they ain't gonna like you very much, Matt. They don't want that responsibility. Frank would say, Matt, you've dabbled with responsibility before, saying these minions here, these Glenn Beck creeps, they're role players. They're here put in the reality for us. You want to blame them. My life would be all better. My life would be so good if it wasn't for these minions. I blame them. I'd be so happy with Stephanie Seymour. No, people, Matt, Frank would say, even most of your truth community, Matt, people listening to you are the biggest of thinkers, and many of them want to blame, no doubt about it. Says you put responsibility, even a half measure of responsibility, they ain't going to like it. They're going to run from your ass. You think it was hard to get another 1,000 subs? It took about 4 years to get one more 1,000 subs. It'll take you the rest of your natural life to get 1,000 more subs if you keep this up, Matt. Frank would say, read the last part of my letter over and over again, you simpleton son of a beach. It says, you put the glasses on. You put the pink glasses on. The being is always the cause. It's just how far is the being willing to accept responsibility? That's why Frank says, I have accepted the responsibility that I create it all. How the reality bubbles mesh, Matt, if we were sitting on the bus together, maybe Frank would say, I don't quite know that yet. Maybe I don't got all the answers, but he's very sure about this. At least we give him an A for his conviction. Let's do something a little bit different and change it up a bit here. Remember Wayne's diagram? The little man in the spotlight or in the pen by himself, and around this tiny little stick figure is the entire reality and the not milk reality, and just enormous complexity to the millionth degree. And the little man in the spotlight and the pen by himself says, all of this for me. And when Wayne put that out and when we talked about it, we all resonated. Yeah, this is all here for us. And most of us resonated with that, which means it's easier than to assign the creeps the status or, say, position here of role player. Everything here is a role player for us. The farthest evolution, or the furthest evolution, it can't be measured really, is where Frank is going. Yeah, all of this for you, but some being or some God put it all there for you, and you're just a little individual. Frank says, just go the whole way. It's okay. They know. Go the whole way. All of this for you. Well, you're creating it. And, there is it is similar to what Tony would put forth. Well, Tony would say, but not from just the little tiny being in Wayne's diagram. That's one small part of something much, much greater called higher self. Tony would say right off the bat that higher self is responsible for creating what he called these games, these reality systems. Tony said higher self does it. That level of which it is you're it. So Frank's kind of coming from it more from a little bitty us creates it, but I don't know what Frank's position is on higher self or if he's a small part of a larger spiritual being. But this is similar to what Tony said. Tony said, the higher selves create the games, that they put themselves into the games and they create the games themselves. And someday you'll see what that's all about, Matt, creating the games. And this is very similar to what Frank is saying. It's just Tony's position was like from this gigantic, all-powerful higher self, quote, for lack of better words and hard to talk about it, godlike being, where you're just a little aspect of it, where Frank's coming at it. Frank's never mentioned the term higher self, or he's a small part of something else. Frank's coming at it from, I'm creating it here and now. there's similar approaches, I think, if you can bridge them together. Let me summarize this section of the letter. Frank goes on to say, look, if there's anything here that I'm not creating, this thing, Matt, you call not milk, any sort of adversary at all, which potentially, again, put here by us, but we'll leave that, put that aside for now. Not milk's efforts seem to be to trap the thinking of free people, where they themselves are responsible for their own frequency and resonance and download, pushing them down more towards the physical, more towards the solid. Okay, this is, we've been here, of course, many times. That this goes right back to the two arms of the Vitruvian man. One side is a spiritual side pulling, and the other side is all the things of this world pulling on the other side, which it's not just physical pleasures. It includes ego, the part of you that you believe is you, the straw man, the legal fiction. Millions of things are pulling on one side of the Vitruvian man's arm, and the only thing pulling on the other side is the spiritual. It doesn't seem fair, one thing versus millions. It's not fair because it favors the spiritual. The spiritual at any moment can override all the other tug-of-war pullers in the squid game on the other side if it just decides to overcome it. So if this reality has a bad guy, it's working you more towards that side of the Vitruvian man, or more down in frequency, more towards the physical. Okay, more toward just, and as you work more down towards the physical and identify from a frequency perspective or a resonance perspective the things of this place. I am my straw man. I'm at a cocktail party. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a systems administrator for hospital medical systems and record keeping. I mean, everybody leads with what they do here in this It's a Not Milk life for us. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Yeah, that's a damn anti-truth drop. Anyway, so, here is the part Frank's writing about where he's totally on board with what we've been talking about for years. If somebody completely identifies with the physical and they lower their frequency, then that person is horcruxing. It's like the Harry Potter concept, horcruxing their own spirit off. Or, sorry, no consequences, people, but they're destroying their own spiritual self, or whatever some would say the higher self needs from a spiritual perspective to complete the work here and maybe get out. Okay, so where we are now, we see some of the basic differences between what Frank is presenting and, say, what I believe, what I've presented over the last few years, but they're actually more similar than you would think. So, okay, there's an adversary here. The not milk, the minions. What does it try to get you to do? To identify with the physical, to identify with the ego, and it plays its same tricks and games. And whether the adversary is completely created by me or is a real adversary, for whatever that means, put in by whatever gods created this reality, where, of course, Frank would say that we created it. Okay, is it really that dissimilar? Because even though if I've talked about our adversary as a role player here, put in here by something, and I still have said we have the ability to overcome it on our own at any time. Why? Because I said so. Because we said so. Whether we created it or not, I think where we agree is many of us, and I've said this, we have the ability to overcome it on our own. It doesn't make me, I feel like if I believe it's created by me, that I now have a new ability to overcome it. I believe I always could overcome it in a sentence because I said so. So it's not that dissimilar. Okay, I don't know what to really make of this last section. I'm just going to read it, and I guess we'll look at it at the end and try to put the pieces together. Don't pass any judgment. Just listen for the next 2 minutes, and then we'll talk about the possibilities on the back end. In most people, I think that the fear of death is the fear of being out of a physical universe. Actually, I'm summarizing this section. He's saying, so I made it all, but then the forgetting aspect is key. It's like, he's almost saying, you made it all, and you want to be stuck in it. This will relate to the next section. You made everything here. You want to be stuck in it. The only way to truly be stuck in it is to forget who you really are. And why would a being like us want to forget? Well, here's Frank's best explanation of that. If you want to always have something, hide it. Repeat. If you want to always have something, hide it. Here's a bad example. You find $1 in your pocket you didn't know was there, and for some reason you want this dollar in the future, and you know you're going to spend it right away. So you throw it in a drawer. You hide it from yourself. You put it in the garage. You spin around 3 times. You throw a bunch of things on top of the drawer. You move some furniture around. Then you forget about it. Okay. One day, though, the reason you hid it from yourself. One day you'll clean out the garage, or somebody will, and you'll find that dollar. You'll have that dollar years later. If you keep that dollar in your pocket, then, or say that $20 in your pocket, and you walk by that bar, say you're just one vice of human nature, you're just going to go in and blow it. Poof, the dollar's gone. If you want to keep something, you need to hide it. He's saying from yourself. Okay, so to play games like this is to forget. To play games like this is an intentional way to forget, he might say, a part of ourselves. Now, Frank doesn't say anything about this, but the implications of this are pretty big and pretty mind-blowing. And you might be here witnessing it with me, my very first creative thought on my own. Here it comes right now. So a part of us potentially, or a higher self, wanted to hide that dollar in a way, hiding something from itself. Who knows what's going on up there? See, we always have the notion, and again, you're witnessing it like monkeys using tools for the first time. Matt's first creative thought, that thing up there, that higher self, whatever your belief system might be, as long as you believe there's another aspect of you somewhere, that, what do we always say? Oh, even Tony was like this. It's so loving, and it knows exactly what it's doing, and it's in control. And you just so loved down here. But that's why maybe some of us find the Apple TV Severance TV show so slightly disturbing. We'll talk about Severance again soon. Maybe it's a heroin addict up there, or there's a spiritual war, whatever it may be. And it's like when, let me just back up, when Picard in Star Trek, The Next Generation, as the Borg were about to completely take over the ship, Commander Data, the android, lock out the main computer with an encryption, 50 codes, so the Borg can't access the main computer. It's getting so bad. Now this is dark, so this is not my belief. We just have to keep all things on the table. The Borg are about to take over the ship. Lieutenant Data, lock out the main computer. He puts a code in, whatever. Maybe it's not just all the higher self is in control and it's so perfect and loving. Maybe it's like Data, lock out the main computer. Put an aspect of yourself into this reality, and then you won't give it up. You can't, even if it's taken from you up there. This is dark, okay? But again, we keep all things on the table. Not out to scare anybody. I'm not worried about this in any way, but it's interesting. Put an aspect of yourself into a physical reality system, and even that part of you doesn't even know. So in the interrogation, you can't give it up. See, if the interrogation's happening to higher self, this is dark. If or whatever, and you're going to give up the goods, mad higher self. You know all about this. You know all about that. And the Hillary Clinton hijackers are as above, so below. They're up there too. I'm going to put an aspect of myself in this place called Earth. And if you want Frank's dollar, if you want to always have something, hide it from yourself, maybe. So it doesn't even, we're carrying around, we talk about the knowledge, the inner knowing, how we're dumbed down here, we're fogged over. People talk about junk DNA, as it will, I don't want to get in. Look, this is not my first conspiracy video. I don't want the DNA triggered people. Let's let it. They talk about junk DNA, where there's all of these elements we don't even know what it's for. It almost seems like the spiritual being of you that's not here put whatever into you, maybe not to hide it from the evil, but to hide it from itself in some way, so it can never be lost. That, in a way, is what Frank is saying. Oh no, I sat here for 5 minutes thinking and it gets even darker. We have to keep all things on the table. I'm not out to depress you. In the end of the day, I still believe, unless I could convince myself otherwise, that we're really in control of everything here. But maybe that if you want to take this sci-fi novel even darker, maybe that's what the whole revelation of the method is about. So the dark creatures, maybe that's why it's getting so ridiculous. It's all about we hold the secret, whatever that may be. The dark creatures are mistakes on purpose, right? They're out to be noticed. The first grade truther says, "Oh, we caught them. Look, they did. Oh, they're really scared of us." No, they're doing mistakes on purpose to get our attention, to get us to have these sorts of conversations, and to ultimately, quote, wake up. Wake up to this hidden thing that maybe, the higher self put here to hide it from itself. That's maybe what the revelation of the method is all about. And they're patient. Slowly over time, the evil here, the not milk, doesn't know the answer. It knows we carry it in some way. We carry the secret message or whatever is encoded in us. And per the truth community, it's going to be very patient and eventually get the knowledge of what it needs from us, as it intentionally tries to be noticed through its ridiculous antics and mistakes on purpose. Huh? Is that it? No. There's an element, I know there's an element of something to that. Yeah, there's something to that. What is this revelation of the method all about, where they give it away and they expose truth on their own timeline, wanting certain people to wake up, wanting certain groups talking about it? What's it for? If you're writing a dark sci-fi novel, one of the dark reasons for it could be that we hold some sort of knowledge or key that it can't just wring out of us like a washcloth, that it doesn't know, that it has to slowly get out of us, and it can't extract it by pulling fingernails. It has to be freely given up. Give it up, Matt. Give it up, you real spiritual beings, son of bitches. It has to be pulled out slowly. Aha! There's some weird truth to this. I don't know what it is. Thanks, Frank. Gee, now we're all depressed as hell going into the weekend. Oh no, the Anthony Kiedis line, Chili Peppers, just popped into my head. Give it away, give it away, give it away. Now, give it up, you spiritual beings. A part of you hid it in yourself. Give it away now. One of his last songs was Dark Necessities. Dark necessities are part of my design, you creeps. Although I did like his little appearance in Point Break. Remember Anthony Kiedis? He's there with War Child. He says, "That would be a waste of time. We're just going to kick your ass. Goons try to drop in. Sorry." Stay out of this, Bodhi. Sorry. It reminds me of The Wizard of Oz a little bit again. Okay, the Green Witch from the Land of Oz is the same actress that wanted the little dog that was going to take the dog, put it in the basket, the dog jumped out or whatever, it bit at her. So that actress, she wants something from Dorothy. She wants something from a real spiritual being. She can't get it in that environment or in that reality. She needs Dorothy to enter Oz to extract whatever she needs out of her. She is then the form of a real minion creep, the Green Witch. Of course, it's a movie, right? The popcorn crunchers have to be pleased. It's not going to be spiritual layer upon spiritual layer in The Wizard of Oz. You have to read between the lines. 99.999, I'm not afraid of that number anymore, of people that saw Wizard of Oz are the popcorn crunchers. They say, "Get me a large Coke and jujubes. No, Mike and Ike. Get on." Mike and Ike, what the hell? Yuck. Ew. So that's, of course, it's about she wanted Matt. She just wanted to get the ruby slippers. Well, what does that represent? They can't be too obvious. She can't have ruby slippers called crown chakras, can she? It's for the popcorn crunchers. She didn't want no ruby slippers. She wanted something that Dorothy had. Takes us once again to Dark City again. Don't do the Kiefer Sutherland again, Matt. I won't. Takes us to Dark City. The strangers didn't have the human soul. They wanted to understand it. The witch wanted something from Dorothy. Now here's the key. Could only extract it out of her in the dream environment. Could only get it from her while she was at Oz. That thing was at its most powerful. Even though it couldn't really harm Dorothy, it was at its most powerful in Oz. What was it about what was that being like back in the quote black and white real world. Just some old biddy that could complain about the dog, and she could take Toto, but that's not taking Dorothy. Much more powerful inside the dream environment of Oz, could get what she thought she could get, what she wanted out of Dorothy, but only in that environment, and not Ruby's slippers. That's just for the people going to the bathroom and then getting the Mike and Ike's. It's what Dorothy possessed. That's okay. It's maybe its best chance to get what it needs is in this environment from us. We can we give it away now. Dark necessities are part of your design? Probably. Hey, Flea, why don't you wear some clothes the next time you have a concert? I'm tired of him naked with a damn guitar in front of his thing. We're tired of that, Flea. It can extract potentially what it needs from us while we're here. Okay? And we ourselves hid it inside. Matt, this is a sci-fi novel. You've turned your entire channel into a sci-fi novel. This can't be real, this sort of conversation. I didn't come here for some sci-fi novel horse shit. I'm telling you, there's little, you can feel it, can't you? There's little truths here. There's I don't know where to go with this, but Frank's letter got me thinking in a certain way, and there's been a lot of stuff thrown out here, but it's stuff we need to continue to consider and talk about. And there's some truth to this sort of conversation. And again, if there's anything that was dark, Matt, you saying, let me get this straight. You and Jimmy came out, no appointment, no nothing. Matt, let me get this straight. That potentially the spiritual side of us that's not here was about to give up the goods to for whatever reason, locked out the Enterprise computer, put its hidden knowledge in us, and made us forget, so we carry the secret around with us, and we don't even know ourselves. And we hid that Frank's dollar away. There's some truth to this. I don't know what it is. We'll continue to explore it. At the end of the day, it shouldn't scare anybody. Whatever. If Data locks... What happens at the end of Star Trek? If Data locks out the main computer, the Enterprise eventually wins, right? I'm not worried about it. I'm really not worried about it. Maybe it'll take a few more millennia to win than we thought. But even we got time on our hands as a being that has always existed and always will exist. Be happy for this sort of experience if it takes a few more millennia. What else you got to do? A being that has always existed and always will exist. Oh my gosh. Should be thrilled for this sort of drama. It's not dark or something to cry about. It's awesome. Thanks for listening.